I look more specifically at competition. Everyone's willing to go for the 1RM clean. They're willing to hit that big weight that they haven't hit before, but they're not willing to put themselves outside their comfort zone to do a ring muscle up that they've never done before. Competition is the time to do that. It's the time to put yourself like in that little bit of an uncomfortable situation, as well as pushing yourself 10% harder than you normally would in the gym. But, I think for some people that like ego gets to them where it's like, oh, I RX all the workouts in the class because I pick and choose the ones that I do. Ring muscle ups come up. I have the potential to do one. I just haven't had the confidence to back it up. And maybe that competition day is where you need to do that. But maybe pride for some of the people who just can't get themselves to go RX because I'm not going to win. It's like, well, you're probably not going to win anyway if someone like Royce is showing up. Welcome to the Unbound podcast. This episode is all about competition trends that we saw at our recent Unbound Unleashed Fittest 3s competition. I hope you enjoy the video. Let's start by talking about the events, how they went, how you think they ran, what we could have done better.
Yeah, so a bit of context. We had 4 events, 5 scoring opportunities. Event 1, we started with the lift, which is a little bit uncommon. Normally the lift will be towards the end of the day or somewhere in the middle. We gave the guys the opportunity to basically have the lift nice and warm, no pre-fatigue, come in and just kind of go from there, which was pretty good, to be honest.
I liked it. I had quite a few complaints from the females about it, though, especially the intermediate ones that had to lift at 6:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm not warm. But,
And I mean, we were in the afternoon. We had, you and I didn't even get to go to the warm-up area. We warmed up on the bars in between the changeovers.
Yeah, I'd do a lift, I think I did a couple of reps with an empty bar. I did 2 at 70, straight to 100, then to 120, and then straight up to 130, and then I opened at 140.
Yeah. So, we basically did 7 lifts before we got into the...
Yeah, no mobility, no metabolic warm-up, nothing, just straight into it.
Wasn't ideal, but it's just kind of how it played out.
Yeah.
Event 2. So event 2 was our 2 6-minute workouts. We gave the guys the Malcolms, so the synchronized element, the Malcolms, box jump overs, overhead squats. Very fast-paced workout. And then they had the individual sprint relay at the end of that. Event 3, we had the guys working through their gymnastics. So they had toes to bar, shoulder overhead, chest to bar, shoulder overhead, and then handstand walks for the RX and lunging for the intermediate and masters. And then we had the individual show pony workout to end with. So that one was wall balls, muscle ups, individual components, row. So one athlete did one part.
Yeah.
In terms of workout 1, how do you guys feel that went?
I liked it. In hindsight, I would have maybe changed it, and I do want to do this for our next one. I want to make it a little bit more execution based, but I mean, talk about the good first. I think it went pretty well. It was cool that each athlete had 1 minute, and they couldn't really, they could help each other load the bar, but that was really it, right? There was no warming up on a lighter athlete's bar or anything like that. We saw some pretty big lifts. I mean, Royce Dunn hit 180 kilo clean.
We had intermediate athletes doing 150.
Yeah. It really made me question whether I need to start scaling back to intermediate, because I was like, damn, some of these guys are cleaning more than I am.
Yeah.
And they're in the intermediate division.
There were girls cleaning more than you do.
In
intermediate.
In intermediate. I think the biggest lift for the females was in it.
I think it was, yeah. There was a 105 in intermediate, I think.
Yeah.
I had to go up to one of the girls, and I was like, do you need more weight?
I'm pretty sure intermediate had 3 girls clean over 100.
Yeah.
And I don't think we had anyone in RX clean over 100.
Jesus. Does that for you guys, is that kind of I know I already spoke about this on my Instagram, where about CrossFit's becoming more weightlifting dominant. It has been for a few years now. Do you think that's a testament to saying shit, everyone's strong, but the difference between the intermediate and the RX was the gymnastics that stopped a lot of those ladies going up?
The ring muscle ups. You asked them, they were like, oh, we're just not confident on the rings, or we don't have all our athletes that can do ring muscle ups.
Yeah. I think gymnastics is definitely the limiter. we had a few people here that were like, those girls are not intermediate, and I'm like, and at the risk of potentially offending certain girls, you know, maybe they are, maybe they're just really, really strong. You know, I spoke to one of the girls who cleaned above 100, and she's like, yeah, I'm a bodybuilder. I'm just having fun with my friends. There was another girl, one of the other girls who cleaned 105, the one I went and asked if she needed more weight. Like, she was a big girl. Like, she was probably about 100 kilos herself. So, you know, obviously when you watch those girls, and that's what I said to the people complaining, I said, watch them in the next workout. You know, there were some exceptions to this, but a lot of them did struggle with the gymnastic skills. They could lift, but they couldn't do the gymnastics. So it's the same. It's the same every other way around, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. Perfect example. You had people in intermediate who maybe cleaned 65, but then went 30 toes to bar unbroken.
Exactly.
And it's like, if you spin it the opposite way around, you could say the same thing. Like, what are you doing in intermediate if you can do 30 toes to bar unbroken?
Yeah, exactly. There are always going to be the exceptions in that intermediate format where there are people who do turn around and say, oh, I couldn't do a handstand walk, so we went intermediate. You know, and we can't really do anything about that. The thing we did to try and make that people a little more encouraged to go RX was we wrote the workouts in a way that only one person needed to be able to do the high skills. So you just needed one RX athlete in your team to be able to do RX. Everything else was easy enough for someone who's not RX.
Yeah, and we saw that in our gym. I know we had a bit of insight leading in where we could encourage people. We knew we could say to them, hey, you probably should do this RX. We had a female team and a males team who would normally do intermediate, who put themselves into that RX scenario, which was good. For the other teams, obviously, they didn't get that insight. We did try and get the workouts out as early as possible. But I suppose that kind of dives into then, is it something we need to pay attention in terms of the culture? Because something that we could think about, and we'll go through and we'll have a look at it. If we think about all the movements across the 4 workouts, so we have 26 movements, but there's one movement that someone can't do, and that's why they're not doing RX. Do we think that should be how it should be, or should it be, hey, I can do 90% of this, I probably should put myself in that scenario?
Well, the way I think about it is, if you do the majority of the class workouts at your gym RX, you should be an RX. Like, that's it. Right?
Yeah, nice and simple.
Yeah. And I mean, we have quite a few members here that they do the majority of the workouts RX, or at least they say it when they log their scores, that were in intermediate. So it's like, you know, we want people to try and challenge themselves. And we had some, like we had the girls that in that RX Virgins team that, yeah, they only had one girl who could do the ring muscle ups. And so she did the ring muscle ups, and the rest of them, you know, they made their way through. They didn't win, obviously, but they got to challenge themselves, and I don't think they came last.
No, and they were very satisfied with the effort. And
Exactly.
I think that's what we tend to see is, like, going in, you're very nervous, they're very scared. The whole week leading in, they're like, I shouldn't be here. It's that imposter syndrome. But then after it, they're just so proud of putting themselves in that situation and going through it. Like, the reward, even though, let's say, maybe they didn't perform in terms of the scoreboard, like you said, they didn't win, or they're not the top 3 teams, but they just got so much more out of it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like which division are you going to compete in that can make you better? And I'm sorry, but competing in intermediate because you can't do one movement is not going to make you better. You're gonna demolish it. You're gonna get the workout done in some stupid fast time, and then what? Like, you know, you don't get better. You don't grow from it. It's just, I won.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, I mean, it's funny because CrossFit's such this thing where we're trying to get better and challenge ourselves all the time. But when it comes to competing, a lot of the time, people will avoid it. It's normally on the female side. And I don't know if that's just because the gymnastic skills are harder on the female side, or if it's like an avoidance thing.
Less competitive.
Yeah, less competitive, kind of just happy with coming in and having a hit out. And that's also fine, right? If you'd rather do that and go intermediate, that's also fine. It's just being realistic about what division you're in.
It's also like a pride thing for the men. Like
Yeah.
a lot of the men are like, if you ever played football or any form of sport outside, you can tell your mates, oh hey, like I played footy. Like, oh, what division do you play for? And if you have to say four, then you feel like a failure because they'll be like, oh, well, you play in the shit division. You play with the beginners, and it's like, well, I played Div 1.
Yeah.
Or like I played up this week, I played Div 2, and you're like, oh damn, like he's actually got some skill behind him. And I think even from like if you look at all like the workouts, and I look more specifically at competition, everyone's willing to go for the 1RM clean. They're willing to hit that big weight that they haven't hit before, but they're not willing to put themselves outside their comfort zone to do a ring muscle up that they've never done before.
Yeah.
Competition is the time to do that. It's the time to put yourself like in that little bit of an uncomfortable situation, as well as pushing yourself 10% harder than you normally would in the gym. But, I think for some people that like ego gets to them where it's like, oh, I RX all the workouts in the class because I pick and choose the ones that I do. Ring muscle ups come up. I have the potential to do one. I just haven't had the confidence to back it up. And maybe that competition day is where you need to do that. But maybe pride for some of the people who just can't get themselves to go RX because I'm not going to win. It's like, well, you're probably not going to win anyway if someone like Royce is showing up. So you need to like have a look at yourself, and it's like, it's not about winning. It's about pushing myself further than I've ever gone before.
I think it's also having that group around you, because I know we're pretty good at it. Like a lot of time the girls will ask us or the guys, and we will push them towards that. We have that conversation with them. And they listen. They're like, okay, we'll put ourselves in RX as much as they don't want to. Or they might feel like it's something that's they're not used to. So maybe it is a little bit more to do with the group you're around as well, where it's like, hey, we should be encouraging each other to challenge ourselves more and be a little bit better with it.
Yeah.
I guess the final thing about the competition is something that Michael and I definitely saw a lot of, and I know you would have noticed it quite a bit, Matt, which is probably a bit more of a negative side to finish the video off on, is what we call like gaming the system. We saw many examples on the weekend of people doing things to put themselves at a competitive advantage that would be what we consider a gray area.
Outside of the normal.
Yeah, it's which, I mean, if we all look at the CrossFit rule book and look at like CrossFit Open, doing anything outside what the set standard is immediately a no rep, and you could potentially get disqualified.
Uncommon movement clauses.
Yeah, exactly. So why are athletes trying to do this in competition? What are your thoughts on their
it's
mindset?
Across all divisions. It's not specific to RX who are competing for money. Like we saw it in the intermediate, and we saw it in the RX as well.
Yeah. The main place that I kind of saw it was on that 70 or 50 cal row, where we had people coming in and holding the straps tight for their teammates and
trying to undo them. We saw it on the boxes as well. So people would come out and they would move the boxes closer to the line when the judge wasn't looking. Yeah, that was honestly the row one. We didn't really speculate, so I can't really blame them. Like, I'm not fully against that. It's teamwork essentially, but it's just we didn't want it. The boxes and moving the boxes, that to me is just, that's outright cheating. It's becoming more and more common. Like we've run over 30 comps now, and every year it's getting worse and worse.
Do you know what it is? It's people thinking they're being strategic.
Yeah. So
that there's a difference between being strategic and cheating. Like, cheating is moving the line that you had to go to, or whatever it is. Being strategic is, approaching it in a different way. Like, how am I going to jump faster? How am I going to run faster? There was a guy who, in the Masters division, I don't know if you saw it, it was pretty impressive. On the burpee shuttle runs, he was sliding into the shuttle run, into the burpee. And I was like, that's sick. And it was like, the floor was really slippery because of the sweat. And it's almost like he took advantage of that. And he was quick too with that. That to me is strategic. Whereas like moving the box is cheating. So, it's a little bit in hindsight, when I go back and look at it, I think we actually should have put the boxes on that line, because then they were all exactly the same length away. Anyway, like looking back at that, or had some kind of standard measure rather than eyeballing it across the line to check they were all good. But yeah, just coming out and moving your box because you think that's okay is not okay. Like,
yeah, I mean, why do you guys think it's coming into play now? Like, it's becoming more and more common, and the trend now is that it's trending more that way, not less that way.
I genuinely think that's like I'm saying, it's people
They just
think
don't
that,
understand that.
no, people think people think they're doing like it's a strategy thing. They think they're being strategic. It's like, so I played ice hockey growing up, right? Something that, and there's a rule around it now, but something that goalies used to do if they got caught on a breakaway, if you're 1v1 with a goalie, chances are you're going to beat the goalie because you know what you're doing. The goalie has to guess what you're doing. Goalies used to, they could pop the post off. Or when I played Australia, our goalie used to do it when he got into it's not a good thing, when he got into a bad situation where he was potentially going to be scored on because they were overwhelmed. He would kick his net off the post, and when that happens, the refs stop the play. So now there's a rule that if it takes away a scoring opportunity, they're given a penalty shot, which is like worse for the goalie. But that's someone thought they were being strategic. That was like, hey, I'm not going to win this. Let me just fucking kill the play. There's no rule that stops me doing this. That's the kind of thing that I think people are trying to do, is they're like, well, it doesn't say I can't.
Yeah, trying to find a competitive advantage.
Yes, because that's what CrossFit's getting to now, right? Like, and I've been working on this with a lot of my athletes. I've been working on it myself. Is I'm trying to find places to go faster because everybody's fucking fast now. So even in these little comps, like most people are fast, especially in that workout. It was very hard to find extra speed. So people are trying to find it, and unfortunately, some of the ways that they're finding it is cheating.
What can we get away with?
It's the same as in the Open before they had the standards for where we had to set things up. You saw how close people set up. I mean, Jacob Hepner did that really funny video from Dubai where he had two boxes either side of his rower, and it was like rowing and kettlebell snatches, and he would get off the rower and literally stand straight on the boxes and kettlebell snatch. So his transition was 0. It's like, I think that's happening, and people are just trying. I don't think it's intentionally trying to cheat or anything. It's just they're looking for places to go fast, and sometimes they're doing it in the wrong way.
And then, so I suppose, how do we get on top of it? I know when I played sport, we have a bit of a call-out culture where it's a zero tolerance.
Yeah.
If you saw it, you were responsible for calling it out. So you say, hey, that's not okay, and you guys make sure that it's black and white. Like, that's too far. That's okay.
Yeah.
I suppose we just don't see it in CrossFit.
No, not yet. I mean, I've been in the gym and people call each other out all the time. Like, hey, you didn't do 20 reps. Like, I know you didn't. I saw you didn't. So it's calling. I think it is calling people out on it, and it's just trying to help people be accountable to it. Make sure that they know that's not cool, right? That's not how we do things here. It's like this morning with the air squats, how I told someone to stand up, and he's like, but that's slower. And I was like, yeah, and that's the standard.
Yeah.
And he was joking when he said that's slower, but that's kind of the thing is people are like, yeah, but that's slower. And it's like, yeah, but that's not how you're supposed to do it. That's not this. We have these standards so that you can be measurable and improve.
And I think, like we spoke about a little bit, something athletes need to be careful with is like, they are idols to a lot of people.
Yeah.
So they might think, oh, I'm just doing this for competition to win some money or whatever, or find a competitive advantage. But there's a lot of people watching you do this.
Yeah.
And I know if I was an athlete like that, that's not how I would want to influence younger culture coming through.
Yeah, you need to be aware of how what you're doing is affecting them. Like, and you need to make sure that as athletes, you need to make sure the way that you're doing it is the right way. It's just, I know everyone wants to go fast. Everyone wants to, like, especially at the high level, but yeah, making sure you don't cheat to do it is very valid.
You're not going to do it forever, and you want to make sure that when you finish, you're proud of what you did. Not look back and be like, oh shit, I was a cunt. Or,
Any more?
No, that's it for us, I think, on this one.
Yeah.
So that's our conversation on the Fittest Threes, our Unbound athletic competition, and our thoughts on it. Be sure to like the podcast, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you on the next video.
Thanks for watching the Unbound podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, and review the podcast in the comment section down below. We'll see you on the next video.